I feel like we are roughly approaching the halfway point between the Thousand Year Door remake and the next Paper Mario game, since the remake finished development in summer 2023, so I feel like the next game may release as soon as 2027, and if Intelligent Systems is continuing their pattern of releasing a Paper Mario game 1 year after a Fire Emblem game, 2027 also tracks, since Fortune's Weave is releasing next year. So I think it's a good time to start theorizing about what this next game could be like, and start setting my expectations. But in this video, I wanted to come up with a wish list of sorts of aspects that I want to see in this potential Paper Mario game. But to make it a little more interesting, I'm going to pull one aspect from each Paper Mario game to basically create my perfect Paper Mario game. On top of this, I'm gonna come up with one new feature that I want to see in the series as well, basically something that could kind of act as a new gimmick in this next game. Starting off with Paper Mario 64, I think this next game should at least have 64's battle system at its core, but can just build off of it in different ways with new mechanics. I really don't feel like Paper Mario should have thrown out the old battle system when introducing new gimmicks. I feel like a lot of the gimmicks that it introduced over the years were definitely compatible with the older battle system, so I think this next game should at least keep 64's battle system as a solid foundation, so at least we would know it would be nuanced and interesting, but then they could add some new interesting gimmicks and new mechanics on top of it. Stuff like the audience system from Thousand Year Door doesn't need to return, and it wouldn't be the end of the world if partners didn't have their own HP stat, but at the very least, they should be controllable in battle. Of course, I think there should also be experience points. I feel like that's a very basic feature for any turn-based RPG, so I really don't want to see it omitted again, especially when it felt like it could have been easily implemented in Sticker Star or Origami King. Moving on to Thousand Year Door, while I would love to see the battle mechanics from this game return, if I were to maximize the potential of this next Paper Mario game, my pick from Thousand Year Door would be the badge system specifically. I love how the badge system is very nuanced in this game. Unlike 64, it actually lets you stack badges. It actually feels like a very strategic way of allocating your stats. It also allows you to upgrade BP as much as possible, and doesn't have a low cap like 64 does. Though, one thing I would change is making this system a bit more balanced. I do think they should keep things like Danger Mario builds and Peril strats, but maybe boss encounters could require a bit more in terms of creative solutions, not necessarily like the modern games, but more akin to 64's bosses, or even the Thousand Year Door remake super bosses, where they're only cheesable if you grind a ton. Moving on to Super Paper Mario, I don't even need to explain why this game's aspect should be the story. While the stakes don't need to be quite as high, it doesn't need to be as huge of a departure from the regular Mario world as Super Paper Mario. At least seeing an interesting story with as much of an impact and emotional weight to it would be amazing. But if the stakes were to be as high as Super Paper Mario's plot, I would absolutely love to see a time travel plot in the next game. But moving on to Sticker Star. I'll admit, it wasn't easy to find an aspect of Sticker Star that I want to see in a new Paper Mario game that isn't already done better in other games, but there is one thing that is surprisingly nuanced in this game, and that's status effects. While there aren't as many status effects as in the first two games, they actually improved some of the existing ones. Like with Sleep, you or the enemy can recover HP, similar to the mushroom status from Super Mario RPG. Not only does it make this status less annoying when inflicted by an enemy, but it's also a nice trade-off when using it on enemies. The poison status also works like electrified, and enemies will become poisoned when they touch you. So this actually adds a strategic element to the poison status. Assuming that the danger/peril strats are still a thing, not only could you use this to lower your own HP, but passing it to an enemy will guarantee that they also lose HP. And then there's also new immobilized status effects as well, with Crumpled and Soggy, that will cause you or the enemy to take double the damage. I could definitely see this being attributed to a rare item if this were in a new game, since this status would be pretty broken otherwise. Or if you're on the receiving end, imagine how scary it would be if you had double pain equipped and if you got hit with this status. So I would love to see status effects fleshed out in a similar way to Sticker Star in a new Paper Mario game. Moving on to Color Splash, While this game's battle system is very flawed, I would say that the paint system is pretty interesting. It basically acts as a flexible FP system, as your attack is more effective when you use more paint. Though the problem with paint was that it was very abundant, so it didn't really matter much. But I would actually like to see this idea revisited, but in the classic battle system. Rather than painting a card, maybe you could use more FP to boost the attack power of a move. This was actually implemented to a degree in the Tower of Trials mod for Thousand Year Door, since you could gain new levels for each attack that cost more FP. Maybe in a potential new game, rather than upgrading each move, there's a global FP cap that increases with your level. And then, moving on to Origami King, this is another one that's pretty obvious, but I think the larger maps was a great addition to the series, and I would love to see them return in the next game. There's a lot of branching paths, and secret areas with plenty of collectibles. I think they could even go farther in the next game, and make the next game semi-open world like Pokemon Legends Arceus. Though I would say, it would be nice if there were more overworld abilities like 64 and Thousand Year Door to accompany the larger worlds, since there wasn't too much to do in Origami King's worlds. Moving on, I kinda wanted to count the Thousand Year Door remake too, since it was a standalone release, and I think this remake will likely play a big factor in how the next game will turn out. But I think the art style would be a great thing to retain from this remake in the next game, because it's really the best of both worlds. It has the creative and varied character designs of the classic games, and the papery style of the modern games, and I really like how the animations are smooth, the characters have a little depth cutout effect, I like how each of the surfaces have textures, it almost looks like wallpaper, but also it was kind of crafted, like color splashes in Origami King's worlds. It just looks really nice overall, and I really hope it returns. Finally, one new feature slash gimmick that I would like to see in the next Paper Mario game is craftable badges. I think this feature could make the badge system even more interesting, since you could basically craft badges out of enemy drops or items found in the overworld. Enemy drops could add more incentives to battle, and field items could incentivize exploration. They could possibly even add a wider variety of badges too. I just think this would be really interesting overall. But anyways, those are some of the features that I would really like to see in the next Paper Mario game. 64's battle system, Thousand Year Door's badge system, Super Paper Mario's story, Sticker Star's varied status effects, Color Splash's flexible FP/mana system, Origami King's world design, Thousand Year Door Remake's art style, and a new feature being craftable badges. While my ideal Paper Mario game would have a bit more, like partners being guaranteed to have HP and being able to use items like in Thousand Year Door, within this rule set of having one aspect from each Paper Mario game in the next Paper Mario game, this is pretty close to my perfect Paper Mario game. But anyways, what aspects of each Paper Mario game do you want to see in Paper Mario 7? Let me know down in the comments, and yes, you can include the Thousand Year Door remake like I did, and also come up with a new gimmick as well. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Blue Sky if you want to. Stay perky!